Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to Wargame. Today it's a 2v2 Conquest. I thought I'd do something different. We've done so many mud fights that it is time for a bit of a switch up. So, what we have here is two players facing off against two other players on a map that I cannot for the life of me remember. It's not mud fight, I can tell you that much. I think it might be the alternative paddy field, but anyway, you know the map. You got a major contested zone usually in Bravo. This is where a lot of infantry goes to die, and over here, this is where the vehicles go to die. Because the team that starts on this side has a pretty easy chance of taking this forest. The team that starts over here has this little tree line, and these buildings. And these are ideal for HEGM troops. Now, we're following in a neutral point of view. This is going to be a bit of an experimental vid where I keep the speed at 2 times. So that you can get the whole flow of the battle and see the larger trends. And the neutral view allows us to see what each team does. Let me know what your thoughts are about that down below in the comments after you watch the video. After, not before. Okay, interestingly, the guy who sent this in was Teriyaki. And he's going to start out with trying to get these buildings over here in Elfwyn. He's sending a couple of helicopters. Starting with an Akula, a second Ka-52 for reconnaissance, and interestingly he goes for Mi-8 MTVs, but what is more surprising is what's going to come out of these helicopters. When I saw these things fly in, and when he said in the description that he was going for a early helicopter offensive, I thought, okay, so we're going to see light anti-tank troops. You know, the light infantry. No. We're seeing Factoria come out of that. That, I thought, was really weird. Because these guys, A, don't have the range, B, don't have the staying power against other infantry, and C, well, they don't really have the punch either. Especially if you see what's coming down that road. I mean, sure, a Merkava has a lot of armor. It's going to take them a lot of rounds to kill down the Merkava. Nachmachon, while it is just an APC, is an Israeli APC, which means it has 8 frontal armor and 5 side. And these guys are supposed to stop that. I don't think that's going to quite work out, and the Israelis over here do quite agree, wiping out helicopters left and right, and encountering the Factoria at short range. Does not seem to end very well for the Factoria. Had he brought a different mix of units, it might have worked. Maybe. Anyway, over on the right, Blue 4 is pushing up aggressively. They got 2 M1I2s, or M1A2s, and one of them's been killed off. The other one is forced to withdraw since it does not really have too much fire support anymore. Red is pushing in with a Vihor, tries to get a couple of shots off, but unfortunately while he does try to push up, the Vihor is detracked, so completely immobilized. Blue smokes up, tries to push forward, and does manage to get his tank concealed and successfully withdrawn, at least for the moment. Now, interestingly, over on the right, we're also going to see quite a bit of activity here. You're going to see Rangers, V150s, and quite a few of the BMD-3s with VDV supporting the player on this side, which is the Kingdom of Tony. The King of Tony. Anyway, back to left, where Red's early push failed, so he now has to more or less scramble. And interestingly, Hans Katzen over here didn't actually penalize him. He didn't punish him for that. The flank that was open over here had few units, and some of them were high value. You saw Nakula fly in, you saw K-52 fly in, a couple of infantry, and those are all fairly expensive, which means that in the short run, he does not really have a lot of points to get more units. But by now, he does. And by now he has Spetsnaz, more VDV, BTRs in support. This line is set up. Had Hans immediately pushed down over here, he might have actually taken over this position. So, if the enemy does do some sort of helicopter rush, or you kill you kill a couple of high value units early on, just push up and see what you get, and you might find that there's really nothing there. Anyway, the area open over here is really quite open at the moment. Foxtrot is really, as far as the front line goes, only defended by Proletary, which are currently being more or less scouted by the riflemen over here. They do have some more riflemen in support. And again, US riflemen, I mean... Yes, their anti-tank weapons okay, but aside from that, the infantry itself is fairly lackluster. One proletarian being pulled back, the other one pushing forward, mostly to shield the withdrawal of these guys, and then also trying to get out. But against that much machine gun fire, that is not going to happen. Now over here we have a sneaky Tyran 5 Blazer. Unfortunately not sneaky enough, it has been detected, since it's no longer in cover. Spetsnaz is going after it, Tyran tries to return fire, gets a couple of shots off, but eventually the Spetsnaz crew get it. So these guys are no longer getting intel on that flank. Now the Israeli and the Russians are just facing off here. Nobody's doing much of anything. The main fight is definitely happening here. Jesus, my English is a little off today. The main fight is definitely happening here, where you can see both US and Israeli units, and on the other side, you can at the moment see some Russian forces, but definitely also the Yugoslavians. So these guys are definitely trying to slug it out over Foxtrot and Gulf. Points-wise, not much is going on. It is a conquest. You got 30 minutes left. Red has 4 points, blue has nothing. So these guys are just momentarily too preoccupied with trying to capture terrain before they're going to try to capture actual ground, actual points. They are moving a CV into position though in Alpha. With that CV in position, blue is going to start to tick in more points. And I believe at this point red also spawns in a command vehicle. There it is. King of Tony sends a CV to Foxtrot. So they equal each other out. And again, nobody's going to be getting many points of anything. Interestingly, it takes Hans a little bit of time to offload his command vehicle. There it is. Blue is very slowly collecting points. It's not going to last too long because there's the other CV. Now blue does have a little bit of presence over here, which is on the edge of Foxtrot. So if they really want to, they could try to sneak a command vehicle in here and neutralize the gain from Foxtrot, so that blue is once again going to be gaining points. But blue picks the safer option and parks a command vehicle right here in Gulf, and once again starts to collect points. Over here, left flank, pretty well defended on both sides. The Spetsnaz GRU spots anything that comes out, and the Saipan similarly. If something does manage to get closer, we got Bedouins and even a Drakon in case that, I think it's Teriyaki here, with his airborne deck, just trying to make an airborne helicopter offensive. Interestingly, they do miss the Hera too. The Hera just flies in, and does now get detected and shot down by the Drakon, but had he been a little closer to the map edge, he might have made it pretty far in here, with all sorts of dire consequences for the artillery which is positioned here. Now, as I mentioned at the start, you're going to be seeing quite a bit of contact on the right. This is, as far as I've seen, fairly unusual. Most of these battles don't go this far on this side. And if blue on this side can get quite a good position, they can put ATGMs on here and threaten all sorts of vehicles which are moving into Foxtrot. Speaking of, they have moved a command vehicle into Foxtrot. It's an Achsarit, means it has a lot of armor, and look at that, it is being smoked up. It's taken a lot of damage, one shot from the Vihor. It's still there though, and thanks to that, blue is getting a +2. Red is trying to bring in a command vehicle over here in Bravo, and with that neutralize at least 1 point of income. But still, that Achsarit is in position. It's finally being forced to move out. The proletariat were getting a little too close, but at that point the M1A2 took its place, and unfortunately for the M1A2, the Vihor does seem to get the shot off faster, and then promptly dies to a missile from the Maglans over here. So it seems like most of the super heavies on this side are gone. King of Tony, I think, had 2 Vihors and lost both. This is the Tiger of Zhu. He had 2 M1A2s and both died as well. So I think they are both out of their highest value tanks. Now, scores are not looking great for red. They're looking at only a meager 4 points. Blue, on the other hand, is sitting on 97. Blue is trying to keep this area suppressed with artillery, and that's fine, because there's not a whole lot that they can currently hit. It's with just one T-55 tank, and that is all. Red, on the other hand, is trying to force in a command vehicle over here into Gulf. If they can neutralize Gulf, and maybe even capture it by shelling the Humvee out of position, they can start to get their income going, albeit slowly. Left flank still secure, right flank still quite a bit of contact. BMD 3s on this side are going to have a very fun time if they get their autocannons firing, because with these autocannons you do a lot of damage against infantry pretty quickly. And yes, they're inside the building, so they won't die instantly, but they are definitely good helpers for infantry if the infantry starts pushing up. Again, the main fight seems to be happening over here, and Tony apparently was able to muster another Vihor, albeit wounded, so he is already withdrawing. And since they now brought in their command vehicle over here, they're now neutralizing the sector. And with that, getting a +1. The question is, when is Blue going to just drop some artillery over here and neutralize that command vehicle? Because they do have plenty of it. There's a MAR 290, there's an Atacams, although Atacams to there might be minimum range. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it might be just on the edge of it. And then again, you got a pretty large area, so maybe a bombing run would be better. Or just a couple of mortar salvos. Proletariat are pushing up. Chayatet stubbornly defending this position, and the BMDs are currently trying to assist. They used up almost all their autocannon fire, or autocannon ammo. Chayatet's being pushed back. And you can see there's quite a bit of skirmishing going on here. It does not really have a direct bearing on the rest of the fight though, because these buildings are just way too far out of position from any of these sectors to actually have any use at the current moment. But I think Red doesn't mind, because as long as Blue starts to devote more and more resources over here, that means that they are not sending those resources over here in Foxtrot, Gulf, and potentially Bravo or even Alpha, where they might want to counter. Blue is definitely trying to counter. They got an Achsarit, and they could have sent in that Achsarit quite a while ago, because this area is well secured, and nothing has happened in this sector. Both sides have reinforced it, but nobody actually tried to make a push. Everybody was very heavily focused on the area over here. Red, finally, is getting some points. We're looking at 68 versus 97. The battle, however, is far from over. The Humvee has not quite been detected, I think, but is definitely being shelled. But by some miracle, it has not taken a single scrap of damage. The infantry cannot quite say the same. Dorban LR down to 1 man, and the Magland down to 1 man. So these guys, if they are done with being panicked, can get reinforced by the Rio. And I think that that should have been Red 4's main target. Getting these guys out. Because now they keep resupplying these Maglands and the Dorbans with spike missiles. And those just really hurt your vehicles. So with these guys in position and constant resupplied, they are just very hard to dislodge. These guys carry 4 missiles, these guys carry 6. Shoot the Rios and you make sure that after 10 missiles you can pretty much push up into here. At the moment, Red has conquered the right side, or is in the progress of doing so. Points are currently not going anywhere. And that's thanks to the Achsarit that Blue now has on the left. So with that, somebody's going to have to make a play. Either push into Gulf, either push into Bravo and try to neutralize each other's command vehicle, or, and this is the more unlikely option, go into Foxtrot. Now they are definitely trying to reinforce this sector and fire up more tanks to go into Foxtrot. They have, however, immediately been detected and are getting shelled, which, to be fair, for an Abrams is not that much of a deal, but it does stun them into position, and that can then be the prelude to another AGGM attack. Sci-Fan being attacked currently only by a Scryjet, but the more reconnaissance you can knock out, the better. And it seems that Red 4's play of just inviting more and more Blue 4 units in here is working. They're sending in Nachmachons, Zelda, Dorban LR, Rovait, Nachmachon, Merkava, Sci-Fan just flew in. They have quite a lot of resources over there, while Red does really not have that much. And again, it is not a strategic area. it is currently just serving as a distraction. Now, Blue is getting a little concerned about the safety of their Humvee and sends in the Command Abrams, which should have far more longevity than the Humvee. Although, the Humvee seems to be blessed by some sort of force field. Because, as you can see, all the shells from that mortar fire, I think it was mortar salvo, landed around the Humvee, instead of actually on top of the Humvee. Now, if you can't kill them, you can blind them. And that's what Red is thinking. They're trying to push into this sector and blinding the Dorban LR. But then, interestingly, nothing happens. They don't actually push. They do, however, try to make some damage over here. The Rove takes some damage, although just pushing him with one section of Spetsnaz against 16 Rove might be a bit rich. VDV are definitely good infantry. Rove slightly less so. But they have backup from Nachmachon. And while the Spetsnaz can very easily deal with the Rove, the VDV is required to deal with the Nachmachon. At this point, Blue says fuck it and just does an airstrike on these guys. Still has their command vehicle in position, and the scores are still very close. With 10 minutes left on the clock, something is going to have to happen, unless these guys are happy to go for a draw. Now you can see that both sides keep using airstrikes, and both sides keep getting punished for using airstrikes. Red finally managed to flush Blue's command vehicle out of this sector, getting a few more points before the Achsarit is able to drive back. Currently 97 versus 101. Keep in mind that, according to Wargame, you need to have 10% difference in points to get a minor victory or minor defeat over the other party. So, with a little under 10 minutes left on the clock, somebody is going to have to try and do something really risky in order to get some more points. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. Red just needs about 7 or 8. I would go with the safety of 8. And you can see that they are trying to make a push over here. Especially Jadnotki, T-55 reconnaissance tanks. So far, they seem to be mostly under threat of HGMs from the Bradleys and the Dorban LR over there. But aside from that, there's not really a whole lot of area that they can push up. All the units now are currently dead, so the other option would be to push over here. Unfortunately, again, nobody's pushing. Despite the rather severe lack of anti-air from Blue. Red, being a helicopter deck, could pretty easily push in here. But then again, I have perfect information and I can see everything in neutral view. And in the standard game, you couldn't. Now, Red has managed to get a +1. Sorry, Blue has managed to get a +1. And they did that by wiping out the command vehicle over here. Interestingly, Blue also loses their command vehicle. It seems that the luck of the command vehicle Humvee over here has finally run out, and this sector has now been flipped to red. So while Bravo and Foxtrot are neutral, it is far easier for Red 4 to get another command vehicle in here, and it's already on the way. It's going to be there very soon. Blue, however, also has a command vehicle on the way. And Achsarit moves in. The Achsarit, under the cover of smoke, tries to just reset a couple of points. And just look at how close these guys are again. 107, 103, with Red gaining points. They got 6 minutes left. Achsarit gets taken out. Red maintains their lead. Blue spawns in another command vehicle and tries to recapture Gulf. And tries to send in a command vehicle over here. How exactly it's going to get there, we shall see by the time that it gets there, if it gets there. But it is currently their only real option. And at that point, Hans surrenders. And I think shortly after that, the Tiger also surrenders. I'm not really sure why, because they could have still flipped the game. It was so close. These guys were doing quite well. But why the game then, or actually no, you didn't actually see it, that the Tiger surrenders. But I think that that is the only explanation. Because we are looking at 107 versus 115 Conquest points. And with that, you could not get a minor victory. You need, if you got 107 points, you need 118 You need that 10% margin. And they don't have it. They have 115. So they're missing just 3, maybe 4 points based on command points alone. So I think that after Hans Katzen surrendered, the Tiger also surrendered. Anyway, that's it for today. A quicker video than usual on the ×2. Let me know what you think about this shorter format, having the game on a ×2 speed. Wargame can be a bit boring at times, because sometimes just not a whole lot happens. And I want to try and see if this is something that you guys like. So any and all feedback is appreciated down below in the comments. And with that, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the vid, and I shall see you soon for more.